But more broadly, we've all seen the rallies without the mask, the Rose Garden event without the mask. The president's family refused to wear masks at the debate. And the president seemed pretty proud of that at Tuesday's debate. Let's listen.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen. And I'll have 25, 35,000 people show up at airports. We use airports.
Are you not worried about the disease
We have a lot of people. Sir? Well, so far, we have had no problem whatsoever. We've had no negative effect. And we've had 35, 40,000 people at these rallies.
Hasn't the cavalier approach to mask and social distancing at these rallies been a mistake? Will it change going forward?
Again, I'll push back on that and say it hasn't been cavalier at all. We take it very seriously. It's why we give everyone coming to rallies or to events, we give them a mask. We check their temperature. You know, I'd say that with regard to Joe Biden, I think too often he's used the mask as a prop. Mask is very important, but even if he could be 20, 30 feet away from the nearest person and still have the mask on, that's not going to change anything that's out there. But also we've seen with Joe Biden, I mean, we can't all just stay in our basement for the rest of our lives. We have to get out there and live our lives and take this on, develop the vaccine, develop more therapeutics, and defeat it. Americans, George, want to get life back to normal. That is the driving thing in everyone's lives right now. They want to get life back to normal. You can't just stay hidden in your basement the entire time.
That was Trump's spokesman, Jason Miller, earlier today with George Stephanopoulos on ABC, basically attacking Joe Biden for wearing masks too often, even though it's Donald Trump that's currently at Walter Reed because he has COVID. I'm not making this up. That was this morning. And the narrative from him and even from Trump indirectly in his video last night is that Joe Biden is hiding away and that Joe Biden doesn't get among the people and that Joe Biden wears his mask as a prop and that, you know, it's really Trump who's brave and who's following common sense policy about wearing a mask. But none of that is true. It's actually mostly BS. We have to remember that Trump, most of his key staffers, most of the people at his rallies were basically not wearing a mask at all for months and months and months in this crisis. After it became common sense knowledge, consensus among scientists that wearing a mask was beneficial, they still weren't doing it. Eventually, they started to more and more, but every time you see pictures of a Trump rally or of key Trump staff and key Trump advisors out and about, they are rarely wearing masks. Not never, but rarely. And I think that goes to show you that they're not taking it seriously. And Jason Miller may be right, although he may be lying, that they hand out masks at all of the Trump events, but they certainly don't enforce people wearing them. They certainly don't enforce social distancing. They don't do anything like that. And so they are putting their base at risk. They're putting themselves at risk. They've obviously put the president at risk, and they are not taking this seriously. And so they know that, and they know they're sort of caught here. So all they can try to do is throw it on Joe Biden by insinuating that Biden is a coward, that Joe Biden is hiding away the entire campaign, that Joe Biden is squirreling away in his basement while Trump is brave. But I don't think that's a fair representation because in the early part of the campaign, yes, Biden was basically operating from his home, either his basement or his courtyard or what have you. But that was when any reasonable person was using as much social distancing as they possibly could. I barely left the home for months around that same time. Joe Biden was doing what anyone that had the ability to do so should have been doing, which is stay home as much as humanly possible. Donald Trump, even at that point, wasn't doing his big rallies, that he's famous for, and he took months to get to that point where he started doing them again in Tulsa. And that wasn't safe. That's where Herman Cain basically got COVID and eventually passed away. But he even had to wait. And so I don't think it's fair to attack Joe Biden for hiding in his basement when everyone was supposed to be staying home. And now Joe Biden is out and about. He's, going into various states across the country. He was at the live in-person debate with Donald Trump, just a few days ago now, really. He was there. This is not a man that's hiding away. And even if such was the case, there's a balance between, oh, we're not going to hide the president away and lock him in the Oval Office or in the West Wing or, in the apartment, the presidential apartments. There's a difference between that and we're just going to have 10,000 person rallies that spit in the face, literally and figuratively, of the scientific consensus about how to keep people safe. And so this is clearly an administration flailing. This is obviously them flailing. They know that the president got COVID because he was reckless and the people around him were reckless. Many people get it even if they do everything right. I don't want to suggest that if you get it, you're a bad person or you were reckless. But in Trump's case, they could have done a lot more to mitigate this possibility and they didn't do it. And so now they know that he's unlikely to get a whole lot of sympathy from the public, and so they have to try to attack Biden. The polling that I've seen, and initial polling, is that people aren't that sympathetic to Trump because they sort of think that he kind of, did everything he could to get COVID. Like he sort of, put himself at risk every step of the way. And I think that this is clearly an act of desperation. Look, I've been critical of Joe Biden lots, but the fact of the matter is he didn't make the mask a political statement. Trump and his base did. If Biden wearing a mask is seen as a political prop, it's because for months and months and months, conservatives, Republicans, Trumpers have tried to make the mask a symbol of government oppression. It's on them if it's a political prop.